Happy Friday, good morning, welcome back to Morning at NTV. My name is Mala Kivila Oder. I'm not alone, I'm joined by Rita Kanya and a special person. And today we are going to have this conversation that we actually don't think can possibly in Africa, but yes, it can. And this is unpaid care work. Did you know that you as a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad, that you are actually entitled to getting a pay? Yes, for the domestic work or for whatever it is that you do within the confines of your home. You need to earn a coin, a kobo, Nigerians will call it that. So that's a conversation that we'll be breaking down today. Let's just get to understand, is it realistic? Why are we saying that we really, are entitled to such? And moving forward, what can be done to ensure that, it's actually taken up by us as Ugandans and it benefits us all? And Rita will be telling us who we have today.
Yes, now before we get into who we have today, you can be a part of the conversation by simply, first of all, going to our social media platforms, Facebook and also on Twitter, NTV Uganda. We're asking you a very simple question, very simple. Would you pay your wife or your husband? Because now we also have stay-at-home dads who we are embracing. Yes, we are embracing them in 2019. Would you pay them to stay home and take care of the house and of the children and just make sure everything is safe? I mean, if you can pay someone else, a stranger, to come in and protect you and keep the house and keep all your items, would you pay your spouse to do that as well? Yeah, so further comments are growing and growing and growing, and you can be able to also share yours there. But for now, as we have a conversation, we are joined by Rita, who is the Executive Director of Uganda Women's Network.
Good morning,
Rita.
Good morning.
My namesake. You're most welcome to Morning at NTV.
Okay.
So where do we start this conversation from? Unpaid work.
Maybe just to enlighten our listeners out there and viewers, unpaid care is basically the services we provide, particularly in the domestic sphere, to care for our families, for community. It's actually called unpaid care and domestic work. So these are services that we give to community, to family, like cooking, washing, looking after the sick, cleaning up and all that. And it's called unpaid care because it's not monetary valued. However much you do it, there is no economic value to it. That's why it's called unpaid care and domestic work. And it's mainly in the domestic sphere. And maybe the other thing is this unpaid care work is mainly done by women and girls, almost up to 75%.
Right. And according to, of course, this study, it shows that, on average, women actually spend 8 hours, in the homes doing this unpaid care work and domestic work compared to men who only put in roughly 4 hours, so to speak. But someone would argue, I mean, this is your responsibility, so why should someone come up and say that, you know what, I should be paid to do this?
Well, I think it's a perception that it's a responsibility of a woman to give care work. Maybe you need to look at it from the other side. Could it be a responsibility of a man as well? And if so, is it the best thing that we need for all our people to be doing unpaid care work? And what are the implications on society, on our family, on a nation in terms of economic terms? If imagine 70% of women are living in the rural areas doing unpaid care work. What does that mean for the economy? So that is the basis or the angle from which we need to be looking at this. Nobody's saying unpaid care work is bad. What we're saying is we need to recognize that unpaid care and domestic work actually makes a contribution to the well-being of society, and it's high time that we start recognizing that it's important. If a mother or a father stays at home and he or she is providing all this unpaid care work, it's important that is recognized. But it's also important that it's redistributed so that it eases some time for the man or for the woman, and in this case for the woman and girl child mainly. Because if I am staying home 8 hours a day doing unpaid care work, what does that mean? dependent on somebody else.
Right.
And what does that mean? You're a burden to somebody else. What does that mean? You are a subject of abuse of somebody. So it has implications. And the concept of unpaid care work is, or the work that we're trying to do for people to recognize unpaid care work, is not necessarily to say pay the mother or pay the father. What the concept is, can we start recognizing?
So when we talk about recognizing, Rita, because for a number of people when you say recognizing, immediately what comes to them is monetization. Like our world today has become so monetized. What would we say are the standards of recognizing?
Okay, recognizing means that that this work is valued, that we need to value it. You know, there's this saying that, oh, what does Rita do? Since she had the baby, she stays at home, she does nothing. Believe you me, you go to sleep at 1 a.m., you're up by 5 a.m., and you can tick every hour you're doing something. And somebody says you're doing nothing because you're in the house. But you've kept the house clean, your babies, everybody's looked after, food is right on time. And for those who step out of the household, that comfort you give them is based on your time that you spend doing all that work at home. So that is the recognition. That is not, even the house help we have at home. You can't say those people are doing nothing. Without them, you wouldn't have the comfort to wake up at 5 a.m. probably to be here on time. Maybe you went home 10 p.m., you found dinner ready, you went to sleep immediately, you wake up fresh, even if you had just 6 hours of sleep. All that is the recognition we're talking about. That you can't just say women are doing nothing, for example. If 75% of their time is on that, you cannot say they're not doing anything. And that is the recognition we're talking about.
Okay, as we speak of recognition, we're going to be joined by, she is Christine Aber, she's from Gulu. She has been a stay-at-home mom. She was for 15 years a stay-at-home mother, but she has a few things such as regret that came in later on after her husband lost his life and she had to take care of the family. So we're going to be speaking to Christine. Hello, good morning, Christine.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm also good.
Thank you so much for joining us on Morning at NTV. Now, we'd just like you to tell us what your experience was as a stay-at-home mother for 15 years.
Come again?
What was your experience as a stay-at-home mother for 15 years?
If it was lack of enough knowledge, to know that you as a woman, you can also do something great, even sometimes greater than a man can do. So we did not know all those before.
Hello?
And also,
yes,
this also, our culture also was again making us blind, because for our culture good. For our culture also tell us that a woman should stay at home, catering for children and catering other family members at home. You should not go for work, you should not go for business.
So now that you have joined the business end, pardon? Now that you have joined the business end of things, because now that you're trying to be the breadwinner of your home, how has it been, the experience going back?
Actually, the experience that I learned out it was through conditions. I lost my man, and I became stranded, no one to help this orphan. It was my mom who advised me to join the business so that I would be able to look after my children. So afterwards, I also decided to join her in the market. Actually, when I joined the market after losing my husband, I get a lot of improvement. I even feel that surely, even if you are alone, you can do more than somebody with a husband. You see, so I learned a lot of experience through the condition. But even though it's a condition, I learned a lot, whereby I am now firm of any situation. I can do anything that comes across my life.
Christine, you were a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. Is it that you...
a housewife.
Yes, a housewife.
Yes.
Is it that you stayed in as a housewife for 15 years because you didn't believe that you could actually go out and, you know, run a business of your own, or you're being forced to stay in that, you know, situation of being a housewife for that long? What was it? Were you forced, or it was out of choice, or you didn't have information that you could do something on your own?
I have some information that I can do at my own, but I tried to approach him to give me some small business. He refused, which means I was not free of that being in 15 years old as a permanent housewife. Because if I was free, he would leave me to do my business also.
Right, interesting, interesting. Thank you so much, Christine, for opening up. Thank you so much. What would you like to tell women watching us today as we come to a close before we let you go?
My prayer to our fellow ladies, being a widow or somebody with a family, please, every woman in Uganda, worldwide, in fact, I conclude worldwide, every woman should stand up, work for your children, work for your community, work for your country, work for the world, so that to ensure your children have a future, which is for a better future, actually.
Right.
Every woman should stand up. You can be a leader, you can be a good businesswoman, you can be anything that you do what. You give up, you decide to be, I can say.
Thank you so much, Christine, for opening up, you know, your story, sharing your story. Yes?
Yes. As I've seen through my experience, there's no woman who cannot do anything. We can do anything. Even if something more than the men can do, we have that opportunity and the energy to do.
Right. Thank you so much, yes. Christine. You are such an inspiration. I'm sure. I hope you talk to women, fellow women in Gulu, and you're seeing some difference.
We are trying, really.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for opening up and telling and sharing your story with us this particular morning, and we wish you all the best together with your family and also in your business. Coming back in studios, she was forced to stay in that confine for 15 years. It's not a matter of her not being enlightened, but it was like this husband did not want to support her, you know, to move out and you know also bring something on the table for the family. In such a situation, what then happens? Now,
Christine's situation is not unique to many women in Uganda, and that is, or it emanates from our social or socialization of patriarchy, that women are property of men and they can be controlled. And that goes back into culture, how we get married. Probably somebody paid cows, paid dowry for you, and they decide your future. And that is what my sister Christine found herself in. And because of that situation, then somebody determines whether you can step out of the domestic sphere or you remain in the domestic sphere. But you could hear from her story, it was a way of control. So she was totally controlled, she was made to be dependent, and I already talked about what it means to be controlled, what it means to be dependent on somebody. Unfortunately, I didn't hear her talk about being abused physically or otherwise, but that's already enough abuse, because psychologically, if you're confined within the domestic sphere, you cannot explore your potential, you're dependent on somebody for every financial need. That is a big problem. I just want to make this, from Christine's story, you can hear that she was doing all the domestic work at home for 15 years. Right. She didn't tell us for how long she's been out of the domestic sphere. But imagine the 15 years if she was doing something economically gainful, where they would have been as a family. Okay? And we're not saying everybody should go out there and spend 100% of their time doing economic. We need to do something at home. But just imagine if she also spent 6 to 8 hours doing something with economic benefit. That family would have been somewhere. Right. By the time the husband passed on, unfortunately, she would have had her own footing. But here she had to depend on her mother, you know, to try and set her up for life. Right. So you can imagine now, if life takes the other, and then you have to start all over again. It's like you're, starting baby steps all over again.
With children.
With children, and you've lost all these years. So the concept of unpaid care work is one, we call them the 4 R's. Recognize that it's important. Redistribute. I always tell this joke. When you get home as a man and a wife, or a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or brother and sister, I mean, we need to fix a meal. Instead of taking 1 hour for one person to do the meal, it might take 45 minutes if we share that role.
Right.
And we both have time to relax.
That's true.
And be happy. Yeah. You get what I mean? So that is the aspect of recognition. That once you recognize that this is a burden, first and foremost, but it can also be shared, it eases time on either side, and it gives more harmony in society. The other is the aspect of redistribution, redistributing it, and then reduction. Statistics show that women spend up to 3 times more than men doing unpaid care work.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Whether you're working at NTV, whether you're a member of parliament, whether you're a minister, whether you're the former woman at home, whether you're a Christian there, it takes 3 more. You leave NTV, you go do that same work, and somebody probably is lying in his bed waiting for food, watching TV. You get what I mean? So that is the unpaid care work. Unless somebody recognizes it, and unless we redistribute, and so we can share this, so that then if we are able to redistribute, then we can have representation. People like Christine can have a voice. The challenge is people like Christine are kept in the domestic sphere. They do not have a voice. Nobody listens to them. Nobody understands their concerns. For 15 years, nobody knew what Christine was going through. She was not participating in public life.
Let me ask you this, and maybe Rita, you can take this before I go on.
So when we talk about redistribution of whatever could be in the house, a man comes up and maybe cooks, or he'll wash, or he'll maybe cater to the child as I do something else. Let's talk about our culture, because a number of times if you see a man holding a handbag or the child in a public space, the Baganda would say, "Oyo bamoloze," he has been bewitched. So how do we move, because it's going to take baby steps, as we sit here and nod, how do we change the culture to recognize that domestic work should be valued, it should be paid for?
Thank you, Rita, my namesake. One, for us to do this, there are a number of things that need to happen. I've told you it's a new concept. It doesn't matter the level of education that one has. This is socialization, and with socialization it takes time. So education is crucial. And education is not only formal, but even the sensitization, the conscientization for that change of mindset. I mean, if Bamloze, because he's carrying a handbag, or he's the one carrying the baby, and me and my partner understand that I can do that, I go home, we're happy. Whoever thinks whatever they think, that's up to you. You understand? And you find that eventually people realize, how come this family is much happier? How come their children are playing? How come the wife looks happy? How come the husband, they have more time to spend together? You get?
Right.
So it starts with that mindset of, an individual. But education is crucial. Educating our people, sensitizing our people is very, very crucial. The other thing that with recognition is also the fact that we invest in areas, we meaning government, and of course the burden mainly lies on government, investing in areas that will ease work for women. Take this scenario. We're just a few minutes away from Mulago here. If you visited Mulago Hospital right now, guess who you find as the attendants?
The mothers, the women.
The women, and probably the girl children. Many times some of us were kept home to go look after a sick relative, isn't it? Vis-a-vis your brother.
Right.
Yeah? And if we have a health system that releases women from that burden, that I don't have to, it's okay for me to go look after my mother in hospital, but how much time do I spend? There is the issue. If we have a health system that is efficient, effective, and you go there 2-3 hours, you've seen a doctor, you don't have to come back tomorrow, the other day. That is what we're saying. Invest in those areas where women are spending so much time in doing unpaid care work, so that you can ease that time for them to go do productive work.
Rita, Christine's case is, I think, peculiar, but you say it's not so unique because the majority of women actually are in that situation. And what she says is that after the passing on of the husband, since within this 15 years, she couldn't, you know, engage in any economic activity to earn a coin or two for herself. Then after the passing of the husband, then she was left with nothing, and so she had to start from scratch. So if we have maybe, for example, a couple whereby the woman is a stay-at-home mom, but the 4 hours have been considered, there's distribution of these roles, all these other things, but this woman is not still being engaged in any economic generating activity, then will it still be beneficial? Will we meet, you know, the aim at the end of the day of empowering this woman such that if the man unfortunately dies, then she can still cater for her family?
And that's where you find that unpaid care and domestic work go hand in hand with women's economic empowerment. So the more women spend time doing unpaid care work, the more economically dependent they are. Just like Christine was. So one of the things is to get women out of the domestic sphere and tool them or retool them, provide them with opportunities that can help them get into economic activities. So it takes skilling, and she's lucky she had a mother who was doing that business already. So it takes skilling, it takes exposure. You heard her say she didn't have the exposure. So it needs exposure. She needs to be exposed. They say when you don't travel or when you don't visit, you think your mother is the best cook because you don't know what's happening out there. It also takes her to participate when you learn from other people. The voices of women in public policy is crucial.
Right.
So if women are not going to participate in public policy to influence economic empowerment programs, then how are you going to expect politicians or government or other stakeholders to plan for them?
So because at the end of the day, we need to ensure that these women can actually earn a living for themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you can never tell what the future holds, just like Christine. I'm sure she did not expect the husband to die. And here, it happens, the act of God. Then you all of a sudden you have to be the bread earner, and you find yourself in this situation. And our brothers and men out there, I think it's important for us to note that at the end of the day, you will not be there forever. Either way, somebody will have to look after your children. So the more the women also get into these activities, it's important. Because if one of you is not there, life may not continue in the same way, but it cannot be as bad as the situation Christine found herself in.
Okay, interesting. And we've also heard of couples who, you know, have no problem paying their other halves for staying at home, whereby a husband is like, okay, fine, we have, you know, young children and we've been having, you know, a hard time with getting, you know, responsible and reliable nannies. So therefore, you, my dear wife, you can stay at home and I pay you every single month for that. Is that good enough? Is it okay?
Personally, it depends, and these are really things at personal level, at family level.
Right.
But if it's a choice, if it's a personal choice, and somebody is not forced to do that, I don't think there's a problem. But if it's something that somebody has been coerced, and it's a way of controlling women or a woman to stay home. You know, somebody might give you money. Life is not all about money.
Right.
It's not all about money. It's about freedom of association. It's about freedom of choice. So however much money you give me to stay home, that might not be what I want. So there are individual choices that we make. But so long as that staying at home is not imposed to take away somebody's rights, and it's not imposed to as a way of control, and the two agree, I think it's okay.
It's okay. All right.
The only challenge is if it's a control and it becomes abusive and somebody cannot express their freedom of choice, I think that is very problematic.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that clarification. And we do have what you had to say with regards to the same conversation. And we're linking up with Rita to give us some of those responses. Rita, what
now,
are
as we talk about unpaid care and domestic work at home, we have a number of people coming in because we did ask you a question on Facebook and on Twitter Twitter, which our handle is NTV Uganda. Question being, would you pay your wife for care at home, and would you also pay your husband? Because we can't run away from the fact that we have stay-at-home dads as well. And from the comments that are coming through, we'll start with Rebecca Tumwine on Facebook. She says, yes, I would definitely pay by buying them food and other basic needs, but you can never mix friendship with business, is what she's saying. That's why we employ house help, gardener, security guard, and so forth. Taking it to what a gentleman is saying on Twitter, we have Sevandeke Jacob, who says, our wives are for sure angels and they deserve to be appreciated. Indeed, monetary value is not enough for care work at home. Continuing, we have Cheyune Musa, who says, indeed, I can never pay a woman for such things. That probably means she doesn't know why she was brought to my house. But he says, thank you for the show. Going on, we also have another one from a gentleman who says, Mukasa Lule Jamal, who says, if I am working and I am getting a reasonable salary, yet for her she's not working, of course I have to pay her to keep her contented, because money is the root cause of all evil. If she doesn't have money in the wallet, of course she will start to look for all possible ways to get it. However much you provide for her with all basic needs. Coming in from Dr. Mentor Ronnie on Twitter, he says, paying what? When you read the Bible, what does it say? What does it talk about? I beg your pardon. When he says, when you read the Bible, what does it say? Does it talk about overpay or to become one and support each other? Let's take in this call. Hello, good morning. Hello?
Yeah, good morning at NTV.
Good morning. Who are we speaking to?
You're speaking to
Yes, what do you have to say in regards to unpaid care and domestic work?
My mother is in a house for the rest of her life.
Yes.
And she doesn't find any problem to be a housewife. What does Rita say about it?
Okay. We're going to ask Rita to answer that in a bit as we sample the rest. But thank you so much for calling. We'll be getting into that question, which is, what do you think about the women that are actually okay with it and have no problem with it, Rita? As we get back to Rita, just sampling the last of your social media comments, you can also continue with the calls as well. We have one from Sempereza who says, I can pay her, but the problem with ladies is they feel no money is enough for them. So she will end up yearning again for money. Interesting comment coming in there. And as we end with this one from Yusuf, who says, it's like, can you pay yourself a monthly salary or wages for your own business? It's impossible. Once it's done, it's a goodwill or an appreciation just, but not a payment. That is the feedback coming in on social media, Mala and Rita. We'll start with a question that was asked, which is, what about the women who are okay with being home as housewives?
Rita, over to you.
Thank you, Rita. I want to start with the last one. Would you pay yourself for your own business? Luckily enough, I am a student of business. Good business people or business, the concept of business. A business is a separate entity from the individual. It's a legal entity. So if you're taking your business as a legal and separate entity, that's why a business can be sued and a business can sue you. Right. So when you run a business that is professionally run, it pays you. You just don't dip your hand in that money. True. So my brother, your business should pay you. On the women who choose to stay at home, if it's a choice, I thought I made that. If it's a free choice,
it's okay.
It's okay.
Right.
Our only challenge, or my challenge, is if it's imposed on you. If it is imposed on you, if it's that is a sign of a control and abuse. But my dear sister, you just had Christine's story. Yes, it might be a choice today. You never know what the future holds when you have to stand up for your own, on your own, and for your children if they are there. So these are choices we make in life, and we need to be ready for the consequences. But I also heard that from the tweets, people are actually appreciating that this role needs to be distributed. You cannot have a woman work 16 hours a day. So people are appreciating that fact, and that's what we are all up to. Right. We're not saying you can compensate women or anybody who does unpaid care work in terms of monetary value, but we can ease this work in different ways.
Interesting, interesting. How about, do you think this is a fight that we will win someday? Because we are in a patriarchal society. Some of the views that have come in, some men are saying, pay who? For what? Didn't she know what she came to my house to do? You know, such kind of, attitudes with regards to women. And he is a representation of a majority of the men. So are we going to win this battle someday?
I am a strong believer that this battle will be one, whether today or in the future generation. There are many things that have changed, Malika. Many things that have changed from the days of our great-grandparents and today where we are.
Right.
How many knew that would be sitting here just in this studio, women alone?
So, Vita, it seems like we're making positive
We're
steps,
making
but we're going to take a call before we continue with the conversation. Hello, good morning. Hello?
Yes, hello.
Good morning. Who are we speaking to?
My name is Felix.
Yes, Felix. What do you have to say about unpaid care?
Yes. Now is a good in the discussion, but what I'm saying is a good for both to struggle for the family. So long as we can balance, because as you also work in the office, we need to balance, because there are others who now take the work more than any other.
Oh, we seem to have lost Felix, unfortunately, but we have picked up one thing, which is saying
The
is
balance.
the balancing.
And what Felix has said is an excellent opinion. One of the things that is actually creating more burden for women is failing to balance. When you work in an office, the demands are so high, and yet when you go back home, it's still the patriarchal demands.
Right.
So the women are actually stretched out. So how then do we balance that, Felix? By recognizing, by redistribution and reduction, so that when this woman walks out of home or walks back home, there is a certain level of relief. The expectation of her at home is not of the traditional woman, so that she's also excelling in her professional life. But also as women, then we should be able, or even men should be able to know that I have a responsibility at home to contribute. So that the work balance is very, very important. The earlier tweet that said, if I pay the woman, so you know what should she expect? I want to say, ladies, that individual perceptions are not generic. While somebody might just throw a tweet there, you know, if I'm paying her, what should we expect? Individually, people at family level are doing different things. So you might hold that perception, but people are moving on,
Right.
and people are changing. People are sending their children to school. People are educating their wives. Even the ones who people are upgrading, they're getting their women to go to school. They're doing home businesses. You know, so for you, you think that is the perception you have. People are doing different things.
Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting. And we do have another caller on the line. It seems that this conversation is really taking people's attention. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
I'm called Annette, I'm from Lira. I've heard that conversation which is going on. I'm calling from Lira.
Okay.
I've heard that conversation which you people are talking about really has pained me. I have a man, but I have a man who cannot allow me to do anything. I have to stay in the house now. So far, this is the...
We seem to have lost her.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But
Yeah.
let's talk about that part, because it seems to be so many women in situations where they're not allowed to do anything.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is the situation we are faced with, especially for the majority of women who live in the rural areas. But it's also a sign of insecurity of our men, of our boys.
Right.
That's total control. Total control. My sister is under siege. You know, somebody's taken over your life.
So as we get back into that bit of the insecurity of the man, let's just take in this call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Who are we speaking to?
This is Pastor Ruth from Tororo.
Yes, Pastor.
Yes, thank you so much for that live show that I'm watching.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for encouraging women to rise up and work and earn a living. I just want to let everybody know that family cannot be measured by the amount of money that we can give to each other. But family is built out of love. So freely we give, freely we receive. That is the solid foundation of a family. But when we begin to measure it by how much a man can be paid for babysitting at home and taking care of the family, or the other way around, then we have gone out of the foundation of love that builds up a family. However, it's very important for every woman to find what to do, something that keeps her available for the family, but also learning how to put food on the table. What happens if a man is the sole breadwinner and tomorrow you wake up and you're a widow? Where do you start from? That's when people take advantage of widows, when they do not know how to put food on the table. But we must not depart from the foundation of love that is not conditioned. It's what is the root strength of any given family. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your opinion. Very interesting one, and one that comes from the biblical perspective of things.
Thank you so much, Pastor Ruth. And I don't think we should monetize the family in any way. What we're saying is whatever contribution a woman makes at home, a man makes at home in terms of unpaid care work, we're just saying that should be recognized. You just had somebody say, she doesn't work, she stays at home if I pay her. And I don't think there's anybody who wakes up in the morning, has a bath, and sits in one place. You see, the concept of work, unfortunately, that we have here is where you're paid money. That is what people call work.
Right.
But when the work a woman does at home, cleaning, washing, whatever, digging, it's not called work. But when you get somebody to do that work for you, you pay them.
Right.
So that is, you see, there's a dislink. It's work. So it's just for us to change that mindset that whatever we do, so long as it's to help the society, to help the family, it is work.
Okay. All right. We have another caller on the line. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Kindly tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
This is
Yes.
Now, it's okay to like give your wife that home, but if you allow work, sometimes when you allow ladies, I don't know where their money go, because even if you tell her that nothing is at home, provide something when you're sick at home, she says I don't have money. When she's also working. Now they should stay at home caring for the babies and doing some work getting for right.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for your view. Very valid.
Very interesting.
Yes, thank you so much. Rita, women don't want to disclose.
They don't, you're hiding your money.
I don't think it's women only. We should just say that people should be able to disclose but also contribute. Because the same complaint comes from women. Right. That this guy, I don't see his money. The children's school fees is paid late. There's no food. There's no that. You know, and these days, to tell you the truth, women are hustling out there to look after the families. There's, the people are saying the men have taken a back seat. So the complaint is on either side. But what do we need to do? I think there's need for honesty in the family. As the Pastor Ruth said, you cannot base the family values on money only. It's about the trust, the sharing, the responsibility of helping out each other. I think that is very crucial. Right. So it's not only women but also men. We know men who spend most of their money in the bars. We know men who spend most of their money on posh cars, and yet, all those, there are things that are happening. So I think the middle line is everybody to be able to contribute in a home.
What's the quick solution for the caller, the lady who actually said that I'm a stay-at-home mom, I've been forced to be here, my husband cannot allow me to go out of the home to do anything. What are the quick solutions for her? Where can she seek help?
She was from Lira, right? Yes. I think she's facing a bigger problem, which is bordering violence against women. And I would advise her to look out for women's rights organizations or any human rights organization in Lira that she can seek help from. And also they can invite the husband and have some, mediation and counseling. Some of these things you need to take people through, talking and rediscovering themselves, reassuring this man that it's okay for this woman to step out, and how that would be beneficial to the home. I'm one person who usually does not take a stand to start blaming quickly. So maybe this man, I think it could be his socialization, and he just needs to be educated to get out of that mindset. And if they do that, things can improve.
So let's take this our final call of the actually this particular conversation. You can be able to call in and just share your opinion or whatever question it might be that you'd like to pose to Rita, because as of now the phone lines are going, they're buzzing, and also the comments on social media. It seems to be a conversation that in 2019 so many people want to be a part of. So let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Who are we speaking to?
This is Winnie.
Pardon?
Morning.
Good morning. What is your comment or your question this morning? We seem to have lost her in between trying to juggle the child and also to say something.
Yeah, there's a child around.
But away from the women and onto the stay-at-home dads. As we end this, already talking about the women, and people would say, why do we need to pay the women? But so many people are shying away from the fact that we have so many stay-at-home fathers now, and it's not a crime. It is redistribution, can we say? So how do we talk about that and get the community to embrace it?
But that is just to show that the stay-at-home is not a choice. Nobody would want to do that. Okay? So by the fact that there are some men staying at home, it's not a choice. They're conditioned. So even the women, the 75% who do domestic and care work, it's not a choice. They're conditioned. So if this is a condition, then we need to develop means and mechanisms of making everybody have some gainful, meaningful employment, exposure, public life.
Right.
And that calls for investment. In sectors, as you know, almost 78% of our population is under the age of 30. And what does that mean? We have a very youthful population. Where do we put that energy? So things like industrialization, job creation, education that meets the needs of the country, and changing the mindset of people, creating those opportunities. I don't think people who are staying at home is their choice.
Rita, of course, we did have a lady who said that, some actually stay at home because they're okay with it. But how then can they go about securing the future of their families, just in case the sole breadwinner, unfortunately dies or something happens to them and they're not in a position anymore to provide for the family? Do we now say that as much as you're a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, then we need to be deliberate about people in relationships being open about their investments? Because you've had cases of men dying who had investments that their wives knew nothing about, men dying who had bank accounts that their women had nothing to know about them. So do we say that now the relationship opening up, honesty now needs to come into play in such situations?
Now we are opening another Pandora box because that's a whole new subject. Those who say they are comfortable staying at home, they are stay-home mothers, I said the choices we make, we have to be ready for the consequences. Right. There is a whole subject that we probably need to discuss another day. Close to 60% of our population are in relationships of cohabitation, meaning they are not legally married, and that has legal implications in terms of when this person passes on, the other spouse,
what next?
Do you have actually a right to their property? That is a whole discussion that we hold.
Okay.
So sisters and brothers out there, as you make those choices of staying home, please understand what your legal rights are.
Wow. It's a conversation that we've had this morning in regards to unpaid care and also the domestic care at home, domestic work. From this morning, if you have a wife that maybe stays home, if you have a mother, if you know of a sister or of a friend who has decided to be the one, either by choice, which you also need to ask that, are you doing this by choice? Because maybe they could be able to help them get out of that situation. It's very, very important that we start to have that conversation in 2019, because you could be able to redistribute and to also reduce the workload at home for them. That has been our conversation this morning. We were joined by the Executive Director from the Uganda Women's Network, Rita Achiro. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And it has been enlightening. Remember to continue with the conversation using hashtag morning@ntv and also answering that simple question that we asked you. It is, would you pay for this care for whether it's your husband or your wife? The Twitter handle is @NTV Uganda, and also on Facebook it's NTV Uganda. Morning@NTV continues.